In the summer of 1699, a ship appeared off the coast of New England, quiet, unassuming, flying no flag of note. Aboard her was a man the English crown had declared a pirate, a man whose name would echo through 3 centuries of legend and myth. But Captain William Kidd was not running. He believed he was innocent. He believed powerful men would protect him. He was wrong. What happens when a privateer becomes a pawn, when loyalty is rewarded with rope, and when the hunt for one man becomes the cover-up of a scandal that reached the highest offices in London? This is the story of Captain William Kidd, from the Indian Ocean to the gallows. William Kidd did not set out to be a pirate. He was a respected sea captain, a man of property in New York, a husband and father who had fought for the crown. But in 1695 he accepted a commission that would destroy him. Sent to hunt pirates in the Indian Ocean with a privateer's license and the backing of some of the most powerful men in England, Kidd sailed into a world of ambition, desperation, and impossible choices. What followed was not a tale of treasure and black flags, but a slow unraveling, a voyage cursed by mutiny, fever, and the very nature of privateering itself. And when Kidd returned, he found that the men who had sent him no longer wanted him alive. This is the hunt for Captain Kidd, not the hunt he led, but the hunt that consumed him. The 1690s were a decade of war, wealth, and paranoia on the high seas. England was locked in a brutal struggle with France, and the world's oceans had become battlegrounds for profit. Privateers, licensed raiders authorized to attack enemy ships, blurred the line between patriot and predator. The Indian Ocean, rich with Mughal trade and East India Company routes, was a hunting ground for pirates who grew fat on silks, spices, and gold. The crown wanted them stopped, but it also wanted their treasure. Into this morally tangled world stepped William Kidd. Born in Scotland around 1645, Kidd had built a reputation as a capable, if unremarkable, mariner. He had fought the French in the Caribbean as a privateer, defended English interests, and settled in New York as a man of standing. He owned property. He had a wife. He was respectable. But respectability does not pay for fleets, and by the mid-1690s, Kidd was looking for one last voyage, one big score to secure his fortune. In 1695, he was approached with an offer. A syndicate of English aristocrats and officials, including the Earl of Bellamont, a future governor of New York, offered Kidd command of a privateering expedition to the Indian Ocean. The mission was simple on paper: hunt down pirates, seize their loot, and return it to the crown and investors. Kidd would receive a share. The king himself would profit. It was legal. It was patriotic. It was also a trap. Kidd was given a ship, the Adventure Galley, a hybrid warship built for speed and firepower. He was given a crew of over 150 men, many of them hardened sailors with no loyalty except to silver. And he was given a commission, a piece of paper that authorized him to attack French ships and known pirates. But the commission was vague. It did not define piracy, it did not protect him from the consequences of failure, and it bound him to men who would abandon him the moment politics turned. In September 1696, the Adventure Galley left England. Kidd sailed with hope, ambition, and the weight of debts already mounting. He did not know it yet, but the hunt had already begun. Not for pirates, but for him. The voyage to the Indian Ocean was cursed from the start. Crossing the Atlantic, Kidd's crew grew restless. Privateering required prize ships, and there were none. By the time the Adventure Galley rounded the Cape of Good Hope and entered the waters off Madagascar and the Malabar coast, months had passed. Supplies were low, disease thinned the ranks, and worse, Kidd's legal targets, French vessels, were nowhere to be found. His crew began to murmur. Privateering without prizes was simply labor. These were men who had signed on for profit, not principle. Kidd, desperate to maintain control and justify the voyage, began stopping ships, interrogating captains, inspecting papers. But most were English, Dutch, or Mughal. Untouchable. The line between legal prize and illegal piracy was narrowing with every empty hold. Then, in late 1697, the line vanished. Records differ on the details, but the broad strokes are damning. Kidd's crew, led by a gunner named William Moore, openly challenged him. Moore called Kidd a coward for refusing to take a Dutch ship. An argument erupted. Kidd, in a moment of rage, struck Moore with a wooden bucket reinforced with iron. Moore died the next day. It was not the act of a pirate, it was the act of a captain losing control. But in the eyes of the law, it was murder. Weeks later, Kidd encountered the Qugad merchant, an Armenian ship sailing under a French pass carrying silks, sugar, iron, and gold worth tens of thousands of pounds. Technically, the French pass made her a legal prize. Kidd seized her. His crew celebrated. Kidd believed he had salvaged the voyage, but the Qugad merchant was not what she seemed. She was partly owned by influential Mughal officials and had ties to the East India Company. Her capture was not privateering, it was a political disaster. News travelled faster than ships. By the time Kidd reached the Caribbean in 1699, word of his piracy had reached London. The East India Company, desperate to maintain its fragile relationship with the Mughal Empire, denounced him. The men who had backed Kidd Bellamont, the investors, the silent partners, began to panic. A scandal was brewing. Parliament was asking questions. Who had authorized this voyage? The Actium was readjued. Who had profited? The easiest solution was to make Kidd the villain. Kidd did not run. That is the tragedy at the heart of his story. He sailed into Boston Harbor in July 1699, believing he could defend himself. He believed his commission, his letters, his French passes would prove his innocence. He believed Lord Bellamont, his patron, would protect him. He sent word ahead. He waited. Bellamont invited him ashore. And the moment Kidd set foot on land, he was arrested. The hunt was over, but the betrayal was just beginning. Kidd was held in Boston, then transferred to England in chains. His possessions were seized. His wife was left destitute. The French passes he had taken from the Qugad merchant, the documents that might have proven the legality of the capture, mysteriously disappeared. They would not resurface for over 2 centuries. Without them, Kidd had no defense. In London, Kidd was paraded as a symbol. The government needed a pirate, not a privateer gone wrong, not a captain caught in impossible circumstances, but a monster. His trial, held in May 1701, was less a legal proceeding than a theatrical execution. Kidd was charged with piracy and the murder of William Moore. He had no lawyer. He was not allowed to call witnesses in his defense. His own backers testified against him or remained silent. The verdict was never in doubt. On May 23, 107 Captain William Kidd was found guilty. He was sentenced to hang at Execution Dock on the Thames, the grim stage where pirates met their end in view of the river that had birthed their ambitions. Kidd protested to the last. He swore he had acted lawfully. He begged for mercy. He was ignored. On a grey morning, Kidd was led to the gallows. The first rope snapped. He fell alive into the mud. They hanged him again. This time the rope held. His body was left to hang in chains at Tilbury Point, a rotting warning to sailors for years. The man was gone. The legend was born. William Kidd's execution solved nothing and revealed everything. The scandal he represented, the cosy relationship between aristocrats, privateers, and piracy, was buried with him. The investors who had funded his voyage were never charged. Lord Bellamont died shortly after, his reputation intact. The French passes that might have saved Kidd were hidden away. only discovered in the early 20th century in English archives. By then, it was far too late. But Kidd's name lived on in ways he never could have imagined. Rumours of buried treasure began almost immediately. Maps, codes and legends spread through taverns and ports. Treasure hunters have searched for Kidd's gold for 3 centuries, digging up islands from the Caribbean to Long Island. Most of the loot from the Quidar merchant was recovered or auctioned off before his death. The treasure, if it ever existed, was spent, seized or lost to time, yet the myth persists. What Kidd left behind was not gold but a question. Was he a pirate, or was he a man betrayed by a system that used him and discarded him when he became inconvenient? The evidence suggests the latter. Kidd was no saint. He was violent, desperate and willing to bend rules to survive. But he was also a privateer operating in a world where the rules themselves were lies. He was sent to hunt pirates by men who profited from piracy, and when the politics shifted, he became the scapegoat. His story became a warning and myth in equal measure. To sailors, he was proof that the powerful would always sacrifice the expendable. To the crown, he was a symbol that piracy would not be tolerated even if the pirate had once been theirs. And to history, he remains one of the most tragic figures of the golden age of piracy. Not because he was the worst, but because he might not have been a pirate at all. The hunt for Captain Kidd did not end at the gallows. It continues in archives, courtrooms and seabeds, in the search for the truth beneath the legend. And in that search we find something more valuable than treasure. We find the reminder that the line between hero and villain is often drawn by those who hold the pen and the power. If the story of Captain Kidd moved you, consider subscribing. There are more untold truths waiting beneath the waves of history, and this is only the beginning.